Good day everyone, I'm Erica Kate Estrella, one of the reporter of the Group 5, and our topic for today is all about learners with special and additional needs. Learners with special and additional needs require unique educational approach to support their learning and development. When we say special needs, it refers to students who have physical, cognitive, emotional, or developmental disabilities that impact their ability to learn in traditional ways. This can include conditions like autism, dyslexia, ADHD, and intellectual disabilities. When we say additional needs, this broader term encompasses learners who may not have a formal diagnosis but require extra support due to factors like language barriers, socioeconomic challenges, or temporary issues. Learners with difficulty moving or walking, often referred to as having mobility impairments, may face various challenges that can affect their participation in educational settings. So these are the example. Number 1 is dyspraxia, also known as developmental coordination disorder or DCD, is a condition that affects coordination and movement. The exact cause of dyspraxia is not fully understood, but it is believed to involve differences in brain development affecting motor control and coordination. Genetic factors may also play a role. The second one is tics, or sudden repetitive movements or sounds that individuals make often without control. Tics can affect daily life, potentially leading to social challenges or emotional distress. Understanding and support from family and peers can help individuals manage their tics more effectively. The third one is stereotypic movement disorder or SMD. It's characterized by repetitive non-functional movements that can interfere with a person's daily functioning and quality of life. Repetitive movement, this can include hand flapping, rocking, spinning, head banging, or other repetitive motions. The movements often seem purposeless and can be performed for extended periods. The last one is cerebral palsy or CP. It's a group of neurological disorders that affect movement, posture, and motor skills. It results from brain damage or abnormal brain development, often occurring before, during, or shortly after birth. These are the classifications of cerebral palsy. The first one is monoplegia. It's a condition characterized by the paralysis of a single limb or muscle group. It often results from a neurological injury or disease affecting specific areas of the brain or spinal cord. Halimbawa, kung isang tao ay nakakaranas ng isang stroke na pangunahing nakakaapekto sa motor cortex na kumokontrol sa kanang braso, maaari silang bumuo ng monoplegia sa braso na iyon habang ang iba pang mga limbs ay nananatiling functional. Next one is hemiplegia, is the paralysis of one side of the body, typically resulting from stroke, brain injury, or neurological condition. Halimbawa, kung ang stroke ay nakakaapekto sa kanang bahagi ng utak, ang isang tao ay maaaring makaranas ng hemiplegia sa kanilang kaliwang bahagi na humahantong sa pagkawala ng paggalaw at lakas sa kaliwang braso at binti. Next is triplegia, is a condition characterized by a paralysis affecting 3 limbs, typically 2 arms and 1 leg, or 2 legs and 1 arm. It can result from various causes including cerebral palsy, traumatic brain injury, or spinal cord injuries. Ang isang taong may triplegia ay maaaring magkaroon ng pagkalumpo sa kanilang kanang braso, kanang binti at kaliwang binti na ginagawang hamon na maglakad at gamitin ang kanilang kanang braso para sa pang-araw-araw na gawain. Ang kondisyong ito ay makabuluhang nakakaapekto sa pang-araw-araw na pamumuhay na nangangailangan ng mga therapies at suporta. Next is quadriplegia, also known as tetraplegia, is the paralysis of all four limbs due to injury or damage to the spinal cord, usually in the cervical region. This condition often affects motor and sensory functions in both the arms and legs. Ang isang taong may quadriplegia ay maaring may limitado o walang paggalaw sa kanilang mga braso at binti na kadalasang nangangailangan ng tulong para sa mga pangunahing gawain tulad ng pagligo, pagbibihis at pagkilos. Ang kondisyong ito ay madalas na lumilitaw mula sa mga traumatikong pinsala tulad ng mga aksidente sa kotse or pagkahulog. Next is diplegia, is a condition characterized by a paralysis that primarily affects symmetrical parts of the body, usually the legs, but it can also involve the arms. It is commonly associated with cerebral palsy. Diplegia refers to a condition where there is paralysis or weakness in both limbs, typically affecting the legs more than the arms. This is often seen in conditions like cerebral palsy. For example, a child with diplegic cerebral palsy may have difficulty walking, muscle stiffness, and coordination issues. The last one is double hemiplegia. It's a condition where a person experiences paralysis on both sides of the body, affecting both arms and both legs. This typically results from a brain injury or neurological disorders such as cerebral palsy. Halimbawa, ang isang bata na may double hemiplegia ay maaring makipagpunyagi sa mga kasanayan sa motor na nakakaapekto sa kanilang kakayahang umupo, tumayo o maglakad. Ang antas ng pagkalumpo ay maaring mag-iba na humahantong sa iba't ibang antas ng pagkilos at pagsasarili. So when we say developmental coordination disorder or DCD is a motor skill disorder that affects coordination and movement, making everyday activities challenging. So dito sa developmental stage and signs. Sa early childhood, ang mga signs na makikita dito ay yung difficulty in tying shoelaces, buttoning, using spoon and fork, getting dressed, problems in jumping, skipping, and catching. Sa school age naman ay tries to avoid sports, words in writing tasks for a long period of time in comparison to typically developing peers. So in general, educational adaptations are modifications made to teaching methods, materials, or the learning environment to support diverse learners, including those with disabilities or learning challenges. Ang mga pangkahalatang pag-aangkop sa edukasyon ay mahalaga upang lumikha ng mga inklusibong kapaligiran sa pag-aaral. Tumutulong sila sa pagtugon sa iba't ibang pangangailangan ng mga mag-aaral, tinitiyak na ang lahat ay maaaring makisali sa kurikulum ng epektibo sa pamamagitan ng pag-adapt ng mga pamamaraan at materyales sa pagtuturo. Ang mga tagapagturo ay maaaring mapahusay at suportahan lahat ng mga mag-aaral sa pag-abot sa kanilang potensyal.
Good day everyone, my name is Claire Mariel Navata and today we're going to tackle learners with special and additional needs, specifically those learners with difficulty remembering or focusing. So these are the understanding the underlying functions. Learners facing challenges with remembering or focusing often struggle with specific cognitive functions. Let's delve into functions and how they contribute to successful learning. So, there are two types of function, cognitive function, the memory function, and the attention function. So, let us first discuss the memory function. So, when we say memory function, memory is the ability to retain and recall information. It's the process of encoding, storing, and retrieving information. A strong memory allows learners to acquire retain, and apply knowledge effectively. Difficulties with memory can lead to forgetting instructions, struggling to recall facts, and difficulties with applying previously learned concepts. So, there are three types of memory functions: the short term memory, long term memory, and the retrieval. So, first, let us discuss the short term memory. So, when we say short term memory, this is the temporary storage of information lasting only a few seconds to minutes. It's like a mental notepad where you hold information briefly for immediate use. So, the impact on learning: short term memory allows learners to process information currently being presented, like understanding a sentence or remembering a list of instructions. Challenges in this area can manifest as difficulty following multi step instructions or forgetting the beginning of a sentence while reading. So, from the word short term memory, ito yung nakatatak na sa utak natin na magagamit lang natin yun panandalian. So, for example, nung mga bata tayo, uutusan tayo ng mga magulang natin na bumili ng gagamitin sa pangluto, 'di ba? Asin, paminta, bitchin, suka, ganon. Tapos, since 15 to 30 steps away yung mga tindahan, kunwari, kailangan mong ulit-ulitin yun para hindi mo makalimutan. Dahil pag sinabing short-term memory, yun nga, 20 to 30 seconds lang ang tinatagal niya. And kapag nagamit na natin yun, automatic nang makakalimutan ng brain natin kung ano man yung sinasabi or inaalala natin within that span of time. Yun. So let us proceed for long-term memory. So when we say long-term memory, it is where memory stores information for extended periods, potentially for a lifetime. It is where we store our knowledge, skills, and experiences. This impacts on learning, where long-term memory is crucial for the accumulation of knowledge and the development of skills. Difficulties with long-term memory can result in forgetting previously learned materials or struggling to recall facts for tests, and difficulty applying past experiences to new situations. Because when we say long-term memory, it is responsible mostly for recognizing, for recalling, for memorizing. So, once na magkaroon po ng problema sa ating long-term memory, ito po yung nagkukos ng pagiging makakalimutin natin, na kung saan nahihirapan tayo mag-memorize, hindi po tayo makasunod sa mga steps by steps process dahil nahihirapan po tayong i-maintain yung knowledge or yung information caused by difficulties in the long-term memory. Let's proceed to the last memory function, which is the retrieval. So, retrieval is the process of accessing information stored in long-term memory. It's the ability to pull information back into consciousness when needed. So, its impact on learning is applying knowledge, solving problems, and completing assignments. Difficulties with retrieval can lead to knowing the information but unable to recall it on demand, such as during tests or when trying to apply concept. Parang sa phone, yung temporarily deleted na yung isang information, but with one click, babalik yung photo mo, na ibabalik mo. So, ganun din po sa ating memory. Temporarily deleted po yung mga information na yon. Pansamantala nating nakakalimutan. But with one information na madadagdag, pwede nating maibalik yung information o maaalala natin yung information na yan. For example po nito is pag nagre-review tayo. Dahil nga marami nang nadagdag na information, marami ng knowledge na na-acquire, may possibility na nakakalimutan na natin yung ibang parts ng ni-review natin. So, gagamit tayo ng mind mapping ngayon. Ngayon, kunwari yung reviewer nyo, isang buong papel, tapos maaalala nyo, nasa upper right yun. Color green yung highlighter. Tapos, letter R yung first word. Alam ko na, recalling. So, parang ganun. Parang ganun yung retrieval. Kung saan, temporarily nating makakalimutan yung information but isang bagay na makaka-trigger doon, maaalala na agad natin kung ano yun. Kaso, pag nagkaroon po ng problem sa retrieval, madalas po, naaalala natin yung mga information, yung background information nun, pero hindi natin maalala kung ano yun. Kunwari, alam ko, ano yun color red, pero hindi mo alam kung anong bagay yung inaalala mo. Parang ganun po yung nagiging problem mas nagkaroon ng difficulties in retrieval. So, let's now proceed with the second cognitive function, the attention or the attention function. When we say attention function, it refers to the ability to focus on the specific stimuli while ignoring distractions. It's the mental process of directing our awareness to particular information. So, it has also impact on learning. So, attention is crucial for learning as it allows us to selectively focus on relevant information and filter out distractions. Difficulties with attention can make it challenging to concentrate on tasks, follow instructions, and process information effectively. So just like the memory function, attention function also has 3 types of attention. First is the sustained attention, the selective attention, and divided attention. So let us start with the sustained attention. So when we say sustained attention, it is the attention or sustained is the ability to maintain focus on a specific task or information for extended periods. It's the ability to stay tuned over time. So it has also impact on learning since sustained attention is vital for completing assignments, listening to lectures, and engaging in sustained learning activities. Challenges may occur and sustained attention can lead to difficulty completing tasks, losing focus during lectures, and struggling to concentrate on long reading assignments. Mostly, yung challenges sa sustained attention ay makikita nyo sa mga may OCD since may problem sila sa pag-focus sa isang bagay lang. Mabilis ma-capture yung attention nila once na makita nila yung isang mali. Hindi na nila matatapos yung naunang ginagawa nila. That's why they have difficulty in sustaining their attention on one thing. So, yun yung isa sa mga problem kapag nagkaroon ng difficulties sa sustained attention. So, let us proceed to selective attention. When we say selective attention, it is the ability to focus on a specific stimulus while ignoring other distracting stimuli. It's skill of choosing what to pay attention to. So it also has impact on learning. Selective attention is crucial for filtering out distractions and focusing on relevant information in a noisy or distracting environment. Difficulties with selective attention can lead to being easily distracted by external stimuli, struggling to concentrate in a busy classrooms, and having difficulty focusing on tasks when others are talking. So, pag sinabi nating selective stimulus, ito yung kahit na maingay yung paligid mo, kahit na anong nangyayari sa paligid mo, pipiliin mo lang yung pagfo-focusan ng attention mo. Kunwari, yung music, tapos maingay yung paligid mo, pero ang focus ng attention mo ay yung nasa music lang. hindi dinidisregard mo yung paligid mo at mas nagfo-focus ka sa pinapakinggan mo audio. So, yun po yung sinasabi ng selective attention. For our last is the divided attention. Divided attention is the ability to focus on multiple tasks or stimuli simultaneously. It's the skill of multitasking. So, in learning, divided attention can be helpful in certain situations such as taking notes while listening to a lecture. However, it can also be challenging for learners who struggle with focus as it requires a high level of concentration and mental flexibility. Kasi 'di ba, when we're writing, ibang focus ang kailangan natin doon. Iba din yung focus kapag nakikinig tayo ng lecture. So, the art of multitasking is requiring a high level of focus. Dahil may chance na kapag pinagsabay natin yun, may part na hindi natin maiintindihan dahil nagsusulat tayo, or may part na hindi natin masusulat dahil nakikinig tayo. So, pwede naman na magsusulat ka lang, pwede naman na makikinig ka lang, tapos isusulat mo na lang after, or pwede kang magsusulat muna, tapos babasahin mo na lang after, para hindi ka malito. But, if you have divided attention, you can do both, and that's the art of multitasking.
Magandang araw po. Ako po si John Allen S. Manabat at ang aking report po is patungkol pa rin po sa learners with difficulties in remembering and focusing. So specifically po ang aking report ay patungkol sa types of accumulation. Ito po yung mga strategies or techniques na maaari natin gawin as a future teacher to handle a learners with difficulties in remembering and focusing. Una po, sa paggawa natin ng presentation, ano po ba ang ating maaaring gawin? Sabi po dito, for example, is use color codes to highlight key information, vocabulary, or direction. Ito po is patungkulin naman po ito sa pag-keyword note-taking na ating estudyante at para po mas madali nilang maalala yung mahalagang informasyon. So, gagamit daw po tayo ng mga kulay to highlight. Then, another one po na example is use illustration, charts, diagram, and semantic maps to students to remember connection between concepts. Para po mas madali nilang maalala nga po. For example po is yung Venn diagram. Para mas madali nilang ma-differentiate yung differences and makita yung similarities ng topic or ng concept is gagamit po tayo ng diagram. Pangalawa po, sa response naman po, ang sample po dito sa teachers is gagamit daw po siya ng physical, visual, or auditory signals or yung tinatawag nating mga cues to redirect students. For example po is yung clap, touch your watch, whatever you and students or students agree on. Then provide practice in noticing, describing, and comparing details. So, for example po is magbibigay po tayo ng mga feedback sa kanila. Mas mainam po na mas na po point out po natin sa kanila kung ano po yung mga mahalagang informations na binibitawan natin sa kanila to build their self-esteem and self-confidence. And additionally po, kung sila po ay magsasagot at magbibigay tayo ng feedback, mas mainam po na naisasummarize natin yung mga mahalagang informations na nababanggit nila para mas madali po nilang maalala ito. Punta naman po tayo sa pangatlo, which is the settings. Sinasabi po dito, ng example po dito na gagawin ni teachers to handle students with learning difficulties in remembering and focusing. Dito po, especially in focusing, example po is sit students in area from distraction. So, ano po ba yung kadalasan mga distractions ng mga students natin inside the classroom? So, ito nga po yung ang upuan po nila is yung malapit sa bintana or malapit sa pintuan, and sabi po dito is yung for air conditioner. Mas madali pong nawawala yung focus nila pag sa mga party po nito na sila nakaupo. So, ang gagawin po natin, ipupunta po natin sila sa place na mas makakapag-focus sila or malayo sila sa distraction. And then, additionally, free from distractors and clutters. Have students remove all the materials with which is working from his desk. Tapos kunyari nga po, mag-i-start na yung class, si teacher po is uutusan niya si students na alisin man kung ano yung mga other materials or mga unnecessary materials sa kanyang table nang sa ganun mas makapag-focus siya sa kanilang activity. Then, pang-apat po is yung schedule. Si teachers po is magbibigay daw po or gagamit dito ng class and individual schedule. Teachers provide the students with a written out schedule of classroom routines and timelines. For example, bibigyan po ni teacher sila ng schedule na for example is yung in this time is meron silang activity and within 15 minutes kailangan nila matapos yung kanilang activities. For yun po yung example. Then another one po is set goals for how much of a task they can complete in allotted time. Yun nga po yung sinabi kong example. Model setting goals for task completion in a given time. For example po, we have 15 minutes for you to work on this task with your partner. And I anticipate you will complete section 1 and 2 in that time. For example, po, pinanada natin sila ng schedule is kumpleto po doon or magaguide po sila nun to work with focus. Then, pang last po, we have here a behavior management. So, ito po yung pinaka-general term para po handle natin yung ating mga students na merong difficulties in remembering and focusing. So, example po dito, si Teachers Lab po ay magbibigay ng checklist to help students to remember the expected behavior. Ang halimbawa lang po nito is ipagbibigay ni teachers ng regulation before mag-start ang school year or ang klase. For example, habang nagtuturo si teacher or nagsasalita si teacher sa harap, ano ang gagawin? Siyempre po ang mga estudyante ay makikinig. Then another po example, keep them busy by providing multiple active opportunities to respond for all students. So dito naman po binibuild or ini-enhance yung focus nila and remembering nga po dun sa may topic or concept na tinuturo ni teachers. Use physical, visual, or auditory signals cues. For example po, is si students nga is nawawala siya sa focus. For example, is inaantok na siya sa klase. Ganyan. So, ang gagawin po ni teachers, maaari po siyang lumapit ng bahagya para ngayon po makuha yung focus ni students. And maging alert po siya sa topic. Ngayon naman po, meron po ako ditong illustrations at maaari niyo po ba siyang i-describe? At meron po ditong katanungan. Is he struggling? Sa tingin niyo po ba nag-i-struggle sa kanyang activities? Do you think he is tricky? Nagiging tricky po ba siya sa mga kanyang concept na pinag-aaralan? At ang sagot po dyan ay he is both. Meron po siyang difficulties sa kanyang study. At dyan na nga po papasok ang ating panibagong topic, learning disability. So sinasabi po dito, according to Kirk et al. 2015, ito po yung pagbibigay niya ng definition sa learning disability. Sinasabi niya po na ito is it refers to neurologically based problem. So sinabi po natin neurologically has something to do with our brain po. The term learning disability was at first used by Samuel Kirk in 1963 to refer to children with normal intellectual ability but afflicted by a covert or brain-based disability that affected their learning. Ayun nga po, it talks about the brain-based disability. Then these processing problems can interfere with the learning basic skills as reading, writing, and or math, yung pagkakalculate nga po natin or pagsasolve ng bata sa math. And they can also interfere with higher level skills such as organization, time planning, abstract reasoning, long or short-term memory, and attention. It's more on the brain nga po siya. For example nga po, yung difficulties na tinalaki natin kanina, difficulties in remembering and focusing. And also po, he described students with learning disability as a heterogeneous mix or mixture. Pag sinabi po na, according to science, di ba, pag sinabi natin hetero means a two mixture combined together. So, ang explanation lang po dito is learning disabilities is a general term that refers to a heterogeneous group of disorder manifested by significant difficulties in the acquisitions and use of listening, speaking, reading, writing, reasoning, or mathematical ability. So sila nga po yung mga learners na nahihirapan mag-focus sa pakikinig po yun, yung listening tinatawag natin, and speaking, reading or writing, reasonings, or mathematical activities. So mamaya po, habang itatopic natin yung iba't ibang uri ng learning disability. Kung mabilang dako naman po tayo, magbigay naman po tayo ng definition ng learning disabilities sa paglalarawan po ng Gargillo 2012. Sinasabi niya po dito na intellectual functionings with normal range. Yun po ang definition niya ng learning disability. So, ang explanation lang po dito, intellectual functioning is a general mental ability that includes reasoning, planning, problem solving, abstract thinking, comprehending complex ideas, or learning quickly and learning from experiences. So, yung intellectual disability po kasi sila, example nun po kasi yung mga may autisms, while iba po siya sa learning disability kung saan po ang bata is nahihirapan lang po yung brain nila na i-process or paano po i-transfer yung information. For example, is hirap nga po sila magsulat, hirap sila bumasa, at hirap silang mag-solve ng math formulas or mga math problem. Then, another po ng explanation niya about the definition of learning disability is it is not primarily caused by other disability. It is interference that learning abilities are not primarily caused by other disabilities or extrinsic factor. Pag sinabi po nating extrinsic factor is yung panlabas po nila na disabilities. For example po, hindi po porkit kunyari is pilay yung isang tao or wala po siyang paa, is apekto na po agad yung mental or yung brain niya sa pag-cope up ng mga information. Hindi po kagaya ng mga kumbaga po sinasabi lang dito na wala pong kinalaman yung pagiging disabled ng isang tao sa pagkakaroon ng learning disability. Yun nga po yung pagkahirap nila, for example, matuto kung paano sumulat, kung paano bumasa, at kung paano mag-solve ng mga problems. Ngayon naman po, dumako po tayo sa different types of learning disabilities. So, meron po tayo dito na apat na i-explain ko as a part of my report po. Ang una po nating topic ay dyslexia. According po sa features, naaalala nyo po ba ang Indian movie na ito? Ito po ay may pinamagatang like stars on earth, at yung quotation niya po is every child is special. Ito po is ang bida, ang pangunahing bida is si Ishan. Siya po yung batang mayroong dyslexia. Pag sinabi po kasi natin dyslexia, ito po yung mga learners natin na may difficulties with reading, spelling, and oral reading fluency. So, dun po sa movie na yun, makikita po natin yung, kung paano yung vision ng mga batang may dyslexia. For example po kasi is pag nagbabasa sila or pag nagsusulat, nagra-rumble-rumble po yung mga letters or bumabali-baligtad po ito. Kaya po nahihirapan silang bumasa, mag-spell, and yun nga pong sumulat. Then, sinasabi po dito na ang dyslexia is namamana po siya, inherited. For example po, kung sa pamilya nyo or yung parents nyo, isa sa parents nyo is may dyslexia, is maaari po or may possibility na magkaroon din yung magiging anak nila. Sa kabila, sa bright side naman po, pagka ang bata ay may dyslexia, is ang advantage niya po is mayroon siyang vivid imagination. And artistic siya and creative. Doon nga po sa video na yun is si Ishan, kahit may hirap siyang bumasa, magsulat, or academically, but makikita mo doon sa kwarto niya or yung book niya na mahilig kasi siya doon mag-paint, ganyan. Tas legit talaga yung kanyang imagination. For example nga, pag magsosolve siya ng mathematics doon, ang ginagawa ng imagination is yung mga planet, may mga number yun, and then pinagbabangga-banggaan na. So, yung mga batang may dyslexia is advantage naman sila sa vivid imagination or sila ay mga artistic and creative. Sinasabi pa na kapag daw ang may dyslexia ang isang bata is meron na rin siyang ADHD. At yung ADHD naman is topic natin siya later on. Pangalawa naman po, pag-usapan po natin yung dyscalculia. Pag po ba narinig nyo ang word na dyscalculia, ano po ba yung pumapasok sa isip nyo? Based po sa pictures, makikita nyo po dyan na mayroong bata na parang hirap na hirap siyang isolve or mayroon na siyang anxiety kapag nagsosolve siya ng math problems on board. So, sinasabi po dito, from the word calcula or sa English nga po na word is calculate. It is a difficulties in math computation and problem solving. Sila po yung mga hirap sa mga numbers, ganyan. Sila po yung mga learners na hirap sa numbers. Or pag nakakita na po agad sila ng math problems or equation, is talaga nagkakaroon na po sila ng anxiety. It is defined as a learning disability resulting in difficulty in understanding arithmetic, such as difficulty in understanding numbers, learning how to manipulate numbers, performing mathematical calculation, and learning facts in mathematics. At sila rin po yung mga people who have dyscalculia often face mental issues, kagaya nga po na sinasabi ko kanina, na sila po yung mga bata na nagkakaroon agad ng anxiety, depression, or difficult feelings pag po sila nakakakita ng math problems. Kaya sabi rin po na ang dyscalculia is maaari po siyang umappear at any age, hindi lang po sa mga batang learners. Pumunta naman po tayo sa pangatlong type ng learning disability. Ito po yung dysgraphia. Dysgraphia is a difficulties with handwriting and written expression. According nga po sa picture dyan, makikita niyo is yung bata na nag-i-struggle siya sa kanyang pagsulat. It is illegibly handwriting is a common sign of dysgraphia, but not everyone with messy penmanship has this order. For example, sinasabi lang po dito na yung mga learners na may dysgraphia is sila po yung hirap sa pagsusulat. Pero hindi naman po sinasabi na kapag pangit po or hindi ganun kaganda yung pagsulat ng isang bata is mayroon na siyang learner's disability na tinatawag nating dysgraphia. Incorrect is, for example po ng mga characteristic ng mga learners na mayroong dysgraphia is, for example, is incorrect spelling and capitalization, mix of cursive and print letters, and then last po dito na example is may inappropriate sizing and spacing of learners. So, kumbaga po yung mga bata po nito is hindi pa nila ganong control yung hands nila kapag sila po ay nagsusulat or struggle po talaga sila sa kanilang pagsusulat. So, ano po ba pag sinabi natin ADHD? Maaari nyo po bang obserbahan ang larawan na aking inilagay sa aking presentation? So, kung ganun po, sabihin na natin, ano nga ba ang ADHD? It is defined as attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. O tinatawag nga po natin siyang ADHD. It is a brain disorder that affects how you pay attention, sit still, and control your behavior. Di ba po sa classroom, may mga bata na lang na masyado silang nagiging hyper on the time. Tapos bigla pong nag-change yung mood naman ng iba. Or minsan natitrigger po yung behavior nila. Then, minsan po nagkakaroon sila ng mixed emotion. Ito ba yung mga batang may ADHD? So, ano nga po ba yung mga example ng mga characteristic ng mga batang may ADHD? Sinasabi po kasi dito na ito daw po ay hindi naiiwasan or nagagamot. ADHD can't be prevented or cured. So, magbigay po tayo ng example. Example po nito is difficulty in staying on task. Wala po silang ganong focus sa kanilang mga activity. Then, talking excessively. Then, interrupting others. For example po is during discussion, bigla-bigla na lang sila nag-interrupt. For example is humihiyaw, ganyan. And then, emotional impulsivity. Minsan po is, for example, is sobrang saya nila, tapos biglang babagsak yung emotion nila, magiging malungkot. Something like that po. Then, difficulty in sitting through meetings. Dahil nga po hyperactivity sila, malilikot sila, kaya nahihirapan po silang mag-behave sa kanilang mga upuan. Then, ang last po dito is yung forgetfulness or yung makakalimutan po nila na related po sa ating kaninang topic na learning with difficulties in remembering and focusing. At yung iba pa pong informations about ADHD ay i-report po ng kasunod na reporter.
Now, let's proceed to the three core symptoms of attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. These are the inattention, impulsivity, and hyperactivity. ADHD causes kids to be more inattentive, impulsive, and hyperactive than is normal for their age. As a result, they often act in ways that are hard for their parents and teachers to manage. Children who have symptoms of inattention may be easily distracted, miss details, forget things, and frequently switch from one activity to another, have difficulty focusing on one thing, become bored with a task after only few minutes unless they are doing something enjoyable, struggle to follow instructions. So, ang isang bata na inattentive ay mabilis nang mawala ang focus nila sa isang bagay, hindi nila kayang mag-focus lamang sa isa. And mabilis din silang makalimot and paiba-iba yung ginagawa nila. And hindi ganun sila nakakasunod kung ano ba yung dapat gawin. Second is, children who have symptoms of impulsivity may be very impatient, blurt out inappropriate comments, show their emotions without restraint, and act without regard for consequences. Have difficulty waiting for things they want or waiting their turns in games, often interrupt conversations or other activities. So, ang isang bata na impulsive ay mabilis mawalan ng pasensya, minsan hindi nila napapansin o hindi ganun sila nakakapag-isip kung tama ba or mali na yung ginagawa nila dahil hindi nila nakakontrol yung kinikilos nila. So, minsan, maaari itong hindi maganda yung maging epekto sa iba. And last is, children who have symptoms of hyperactivity may fidget and squirm in their seats, talk non-stop, dash around, touching or playing with anything and everything in sight, have trouble sitting still during dinner, school, and story time, constantly in motion, have difficulty doing quiet tasks or activities. So, ang isang bata nga na hyperactive, hindi nila nakakontrol yung mga kinikilos nila, and minsan makulit and maingay na yung mga ginagawa nila na makaapekto sa mga tao sa paligid nila dahil hindi na ito magiging kaaya-aya. So, mahalaga na ang mga magulang at ang guro ay maging observant sa kinikilos, sa progress and development na nangyayari sa isang bata. Dahil alam naman natin na normal lang sa isang bata ang paglalaro, ang maaring maging maingay sila, makulit, and hindi nila na kukontrol yung mga kinikilos nila. Ngunit kapag nakita natin ang mga symptoms na ito, hindi naman ibig sabihin na may ADHD na sila. Kaya mahalaga pa rin na magkaroon ng diagnosis na galing sa isang doktor. So, these are the 4 components needed in identifying students with ADHD. Ito yung, to diagnose ADHD, ito yung mga process na maaaring gawin. Like medical examination, clinic interviews, use of teacher and parent rating skills, and behavioral observations. A doctor start by asking about a child's health, behavior, and activities. And magbibigay sila ng checklist sa magulang upang nakapaloob dun yung mga questions about sa current and past behaviors or symptoms na nakita nila sa bata. And yung magulang, maaari din nilang bigyan yung teachers ng checklist about doon. Kung saan lahat ng makukuhang information ay makakatulong upang makabuo yung doctor ng diagnosis. And maaari din mag-refer ng doctor yung magulang sa ibang health providers like psychologists and psychiatrists. Next is dumako naman tayo sa learning characteristics or yung learning experience na naranasan ng students na may ADHD. So, when it comes sa language development, siguro magkakaroon sila ng delay sa pagsasalita or limited lamang yung mga words na nalalaman nila dahil isa sa mga symptoms na meron sila is mabilis silang makalimot ng informations and details. So, maapektuhan dito yung paano nila i-organize yung thoughts and ideas nila. Next is written language. Siguro nakapaloob dito yung sa pagsusulat. Like, halimbawa, maaaring magkamali sila sa pag-spell ng mga words na isinusulat nila. And sa pag-construct ng sentence, halimbawa, hindi sila ganun kabilis mag-isip about kung paano nila pagsasamahin yung mga thoughts and ideas na gusto nilang i-express. And next is reading skills. Maaaring, halimbawa, i-skip nila yung mga words na nahihirapan sila and hindi nila mabasa. So, maapektuhan dito kung paano nila intindihin yung mga pinapabasa sa kanila. Next is math skills. Alam naman natin na in learning math, it requires sustained attention dahil maraming minememorize na formulas or sequence. So, mahirap para sa kanila na alalahanin lahat ng process na yun. Next is the general education adaptation. So, may tinatawag tayo dito ng universal design for learning, an approach that has been proven to be effective for students with memory and focusing difficulties is the use of explicit instruction of literary skills, comprehension, and writing strategies. This approach promotes clarity, engagement, and effective learning outcomes. Ito ay nakafocus sa pagbibigay ng direktang instructions sa mga batang or estudyanteng may ADHD kung saan mas madadalian sila. So there are 3 principles of UDL. These are the multiple means of representation, multiple means of expression, and multiple means of engagement. In multiple means of representation, it emphasizes sensory learning by presenting information through various modalities. Nakapaloob dito yung paggamit ng reading materials that may include rich visual representations, maaari din gumamit ng auditory and tactiles. And in multiple means of expression, from the word expression, maaari tayong magbigay lamang ng isang topic, and through debates and writing activities, maaari natin silang matulungan na ma-express yung ideas and opinions nila about sa topic na yun. And last is the multiple means of engagement. Like in role-playing and kinesthetic activities, may collaboration na mangyayari between our students and ma-enhance yung communication skills nila and masasabi natin may direct experience.
Next naman po is yung learners with difficulty with self-care. Self-care is frequently used to refer to a person's ability to perform daily living activities or specific to body care such as washing oneself, brushing teeth, combing, trimming nails, toileting, dressing, eating, drinking, and caring for oneself. Ang paliligo daw po at pagsusuklay, pagsisipilyo ng ngipin, pagbibihis ng ating sarili, pagkain ng masustansyang pagkain ay ilan lamang sa mga bagay na ating natututunan simula pagkabata na paraan ng pangangalaga sa ating sarili. Ang ganitong klase ng routine ay parte na ng pang-araw-araw na itinuturo sa atin ng ating magulang at maging sa paaralan. Next po is care for ourselves in all aspects of our lives, whether this means physically, spiritually, mentally, or emotionally. Self-care ay hindi lamang tungkol sa physical na pagpapanatili ng kalinisan. Ito rin ay tungkol sa pangangalaga natin sa emotional, intellectual, at spiritual na aspeto. Kabilang dito ay ang pagkakaroon ng sapat na oras ng pahinga, pagdarasal, pagbabasa ng libro at marami pang iba. Ngunit, ang mga mag-aaral na mayroong additional needs ay nahihirapan na maisagawa ang mga pang-araw-araw na gawain ito. Isa nga sa posibleng dahilan nito ay ang pagkakaroon ng intellectual disability. Ano nga ba yung tinatawag natin na intellectual disability? It is a term used when a person has a certain limitations in cognitive functioning and skills, including conceptual, social, and practical skills, such as language, social, and self-care. Self-care, which is yung pinag-aaral natin ngayon, kung saan ay nagkakaroon ng hamon sa cognitive development ng isang bata. Kabilang sa hamon na ito ay ang conceptual, social, and practical skills. Kabilang dito yung language, yung pakikisalamuha, at yung self-care skills. Dito ang mga bagay na tututunan dapat ng isang bata sa particular na edad tulad ng pagkakaroon ng malalim na pag-unawa, pakikipagkaibigan at pangangalaga ng katawan ay hindi nila naisa sa katuparan dahil nga sa kondisyon na ito. Ang mga taong nakaranas ng intellectual disability ay nahihirapan sa kanilang pag-aaral dahil higit na apektado dito ang kanilang intellectual development. Ito ay ilan lamang sa paraan upang ang mga taong may intellectual disabilities ay masundan pa rin ang proseso ng isang gawain. Una nga dito ang task analysis. Ano nga ba yung task analysis? Task analysis is a behavioral approach that breaks down a complex task into a step-by-step procedures. Ito ay ang mga pagpapasimple o paghahati-hati ng isang malawak na gawain tulad ng paghuhugas ng kamay, paliligo at marami pang iba. Inilalagay ito sa isang chart o poster tulad ng nakikita natin sa screen na mayroong step-by-step procedure. Layunin nito ng papadali para sa mga taong may intellectual disability o yung mga taong may difficulties when it comes in taking care of themselves na masundan o maunawaan pa rin ng isang particular na task. Dito ay hindi nila maramdaman na sila ay nahihirapan dahil nga sila ay mga susundan ng mga hakbang at ito din ay mayroong larawan na kasama upang higit pa nila itong maunawaan. Dito makikita natin ang proseso ng paghuhugas ng kamay na kung saan mayroong mga magkakasunod na mga hakbang na magiging way para mapadali ang paggawa ng isang gawain. Mapapansin din natin na ang mga salitang ginamit sa instructions ay direktang sinabi at hindi paligoy-ligoy dahil isa nga sa layunin ng task analysis na ito na gawing simple ang isang gawain. Susunod naman is sa task analysis naman na ito ay pinapakita ang proseso ng pag-aayos ng gamit sa pagdating sa silid-aralan. Ito ay ginagamit ng guro bilang parte ng kanilang daily routine upang makasanayan ng mga bata na ayusin ang kanilang gamit pagdating sa silid-aralan. Bukod sa task analysis, meron din video-based intervention. Ano nga ba yung video-based intervention? It includes video modeling and prompting for teaching daily living tasks. It is an effective way of teaching a variety of skills through repeated exposure to a video. Katulad ng sa task analysis, ito rin ay naglalaman sa paraan ng pagpasasagawa ng isang task. Sa task analysis ay gumagamit ng chart o poster. Dito naman ay ginagamitan ng video na kung saan mapapanood ng mga bata ang pagsasagawa ng mga hakbang sa isang particular na gawain. Tulad ng pagsisipilyo, paghuhugas ng kamay, at pag-aayos ng gamit. Example nito is, the teacher will watch a video of a familiar peer or adult completing a specific task or demonstrating a positive behavior accompanied with oral explanation. So, sa video nga na iyon ay maaaring si teacher ay video niya ang kanyang sarili habang ginagawa ang isang task tulad ng paghugas ng kamay at pag-aayos ng gamit sa eskwela. At kanya itong ipapanood sa mga mag-aaral pagkatapos. Siyempre, pagkatapos na panood, kailangan pa din ni teacher na ipaliwanag ang isinagawa niyang video upang higit na maunawaan ito ng mga mag-aaral at maisagawa rin nila.